What's that sound? It's For Amusement Only, the EM and Bingo Pinball podcast. Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge, and today I have a local collector friend of mine, Taylor Reese, on the horn. He is a collector who's been in the scene for many years, and he has a beautiful collection of games. He's also one of the members who runs the River City Flippers, which is one of the pinball leagues here in town. And he is also into competitive pinball. How are you doing, Taylor?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing great.
Excellent. So I hear from your latest podcast escapade that actually you're kind of winding down the competitive side a bit.
I just, I think that I'm not as competitive, as serious of a competitive player as I wish I was. And so I'm not really worrying about it too much, you know? Okay. So I'm just enjoying it, pinball, you know, not so much having to win, but just having fun.
That's the thing. Whatever keeps it fun is really of interest to me, you know.
Oh yeah, it's a fun hobby, and I got into it because it was fun. I didn't get into it because I was worried like what I was ranked,
right?
You know, and I'm not. I mean, it's not like I'm ranked highly, but like when you're, yeah, I don't know. I'm just not into that anymore.
Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's so many different aspects in this hobby, you know, to be into. There's not just one thing that anybody, I think, can point to that they like other than the game itself. So, I wanted to start off and ask you how old you were.
How old I am now?
Yes, at the moment.
That's awkward. I'm 43.
43. All right.
I'm 43. I turned 43 in February.
Awesome. So, when was the first time you remember playing a pinball machine?
Oh man, I honestly do not remember. My grandmother, she lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and she had a farmhouse that was in like central South Carolina. She had a trailer in Myrtle Beach that was at a place called Pirate Land. And Pirate Land was a like mobile home park. And she worked there. So she had a farmhouse because somehow like I have all these farmers in my family in like the center of South Carolina. And somehow she still had her farmhouse, but she worked at this like Pirate Land campground. And in the Pirate Land campground, we would go down there during the summer for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. And they had an arcade. Mm-hmm. And so my brother and I, we would, you know, I think we were allowed to use the golf cart or something, but I don't remember how. I have a brother who's 2 years older than I was. I'm pretty sure he drove the golf cart. But we would go, or we'd ride bikes, and we would go to this arcade and we would just play games. And I don't remember pinball specifically, but I know I played it there, you know, because this really would have been pre-arcade stuff, you know. I mean, when did arcades come out? Like we had, when did arcade? When was the golden age?
Like video?
Video, like Pac-Man. Like I remember Pac-Man on location. So it had, because I mean, I was born in 72, so I was definitely younger than that. So it was definitely pinball. So I think maybe I don't remember pinball specifically because that's all there was. You know, like that's what you had. But I do remember like going to the boardwalks and stuff and, you know, playing, I remember playing pinball. But I didn't really get into it until really the 90s. I mean, like 90 is when I went to college, and that's when I was going to arcades and going to the back of the arcade where the pinball machines were. And I mean, that was really like early 90s. And then from then I've been into it, spent a lot of time.
Yep.
Doing that. That was my short story. That's why my podcasts are an hour and a half and yours are only 13 minutes, because I can just talk and talk and talk.
Well, you know me, I can get talking too, but I try to keep the text short and sweet, and especially if I'm talking to myself,
Yes.
it's hard to keep that momentum up.
No, I hear you.
But so you can't point to any one specific title, though.
No, I can't. Well, not from the early days. I mean, from the 90s, it was the Addams Family.
Mm-hmm.
But from the early days, I don't remember. I don't remember like any specific title.
Well, that's fair enough. So now you have primarily a WPC solid state collection.
Yes.
However,
I do.
You recently added a Stern Stars, which is a 1978 Stern, classic Stern.
It is, yes. I love it.
And that's got some of the classic chime sounds, which are reminiscent of the EM era.
Yep.
Now, have you ever given thought to adding an EM to your collection?
Oh, I would love to do an EM. I think that like space is always an issue.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've always considered, I've always been intimidated by the EMs just because you open the back box or you look inside the cabinet and it's just filled with stuff and it's all mechanical. And you hear all these nightmares about, if something goes out of adjustment, then everything can get off kilter. And then you have this, and then you just have a big paperweight. And I don't necessarily know how to work on that. I don't know how to work on WPCs, but I just figure it out. I think that EMs are just like, it seems like it's a different language. But like I've really enjoyed, it's still solid state, I guess, but the 78 Stern Stars, I really appreciate the simplicity of it. Mm-hmm. And I actually got into the idea of just getting something like that because we have a mutual friend who has a Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. And I love the Grand Prix. I just love the simplicity to it. And, it's like spinner, 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 all day spinner, collect. But it's just so difficult. It's just such a challenging game. And, I really like pinball. So I'll play about anything. But I like the simplicity of it. And Stars is a very simple game. You have 2 banks of 3 drop targets. You have 2 spinners and a pop bumper, and then just 5 switches on the playfield. You have a couple rollovers.
Yeah.
But it's just simple. It's just like, it's all about points. And I like that. I like, the modern games. I like the stories that they tell, and I like the deep rule set. Sure. But there's just something about, building up your bonus and then just like figuring out, what's that shot you need to make. Like Stern Stars, you get the 5 targets, you get all 5 stars lit. You get your drops drop enough to get to 3 times multiplier, and then you're just killing the spinner. It's just spinner, 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 spinner. I love it. It's challenging, man. It kicks my butt every day.
Well, Grand Prix is kind of similar now that you mention it, in that it's got 2 spinners, and you've got that bonus collect, which Stars doesn't have. But it's a fun game. And as far as Grand Prix, I mentioned that you are one of the members that runs the River City Flippers. Yep. Does that come up as a league game often?
Often it does. And I think people like it. I think people have grown to it. One of the tricks with Grand Prix that I've run into is that the on his game, the right saucer will kick straight down the middle. And it's one of those things where it's such a simple game, but the recovery, I feel it's not there like a more modern game. Mm-hmm. So when that thing kicks out, you're done, so that can be frustrating when it's already a hard enough game.
Right.
And the objectives are simple, but it's hard. So when you make a shot, so if you're going for that saucer and you make it, and then it just you lose your ball. That's really frustrating. When you only have, if you only have 6 elements on a table and one of them is not working, that's so frustrating. Like my stars, my pop bumper, like it has a single pop at the very top of the playfield. It's about 7/8 of the way up the playfield. So at the top, so you shoot the ball and it comes out, and then on your right hand side, like 10 o'clock on the pop bumper is a target. So there's your white star, and then you have a yellow and a green star maybe on the right side. But when you plunge the ball, if it comes out and it bounces off that, there's a gate up there. If it bounces off that gate, a lot of times it'll come down the left side. If it comes down the left side, it'll hit that star. The pop bumper will pop. But when it comes and it'll roll down the right side of the pop bumper, it won't pop.
It's just so dead. Yeah,
it's dead, and it sucks because the way that the playfield is configured is, so you have your 2 targets and you have like a little post that's like below the target, and then your open playfield. And the way that ball, if it comes off a dead right side of the pop bumper, it just seems like it just wants to go straight down the middle. And it has a center post in the game. But it just finds that perfect spot between the left flipper and the center post. And like my games are on Berber carpet, but I have got those like rubber pads under them. So you're not slide saving the thing. I mean, you're like really shaking it. And my tilt, even on that game, is pretty tight. And that's frustrating. And I keep messing with it. Like I mess with the spoon. I mean, I've got to say, like, Nick is a treat of a person to have over to your house because, Nick and I kind of, sorry, I'm just going to like give you some compliments. Hey. But Nick is an outstanding guy. And, he's the guy who comes over to your house. You invite him over. And I met Nick and we talked a little bit before, but then we ended up meeting at the York show, right? So we met at the York show. And, Nick's a guy, like, you go up and you say hello, and you're like instant friendship, instant conversation. It's all good. And I had Nick over. We both, like, I've been over to his place. He's been over to mine. And Nick was great. Like, we were playing Doctor Who. And on Doctor Who, one of the pop bumpers wasn't really active, right?
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh, man, let's just, I have 9 tables. Or at that point, I think I had 8. Or I had 9. And so I'm like, man, let's just go play something else. Let's not even mess with this. And Nick is just like, I really like to work on that pop bumper. Like, no, I don't want it. Let's work on this. So Nick, we lifted the hood on the Doctor, and Nick got in there, and we spent like 15 minutes like trying to adjust this pop to be as sensitive as we could make it. And it was great. And I thank you. I thank you for being one of those guys who's just like, what, I'll go under the hood, because knowing that this game is going to be playing well is as important to me as playing it. And I appreciate that. So thank you for doing that. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been nice meeting more people locally in the hobby. And you are definitely one of the good guys of the hobby, helped a lot of people out. And so there's Nick. Well done, Nick. Yeah, man.
Once I finish blushing here, I'll
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's you know me. I mean, I really dig into the technical side, and that part really fascinates me. Yeah. But also, it's like when I go to play a game on location, now that I know what makes them tick, I know when they're broken.
Oh, yeah.
And it drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I worked as a projectionist here at the Bird, which is a local old.
Oh, yeah.
For years. And it's the same thing. If I go to a movie now and in one of the big chains and watch it, I see every mistake that the projectionist is making.
Now I don't want to have you over at my house anymore.
Well, the good thing is I know how to.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Golly, man. Well, I was going to invite you over soon, but that's all right.
I guess I ruined that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to have you over again too, because I've got 2 new machines since the last time you've been over.
Yeah, you know what? I don't. I've been waiting for an invitation, but you know, I will. You know what? I did check my mailbox, and I'm pretty sure I haven't seen an invitation lately. And I'm always up for playing to somebody else's house.
Well, then you get to tell me how my pop bumpers are screwed up.
Dude, I'm not going to say anything. If I go to somebody's house and they have their games on free play, my mouth is shut. You know what? I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one flipper flips, like even like kind of just wobbles, I'm good, man. Now I'll be satisfied for hours.
Well, so I have had you over, and you've gotten to try all my games from the different eras. And I've got machines I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, but I've got them from the 30s to the 90s. So I've got a nice mix of solid state with the later machines and a lot of EMs. What was your favorite last time you were over here?
Oh, my favorite was easily Police Force.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Center ramp.
Oh, I mean, you know, I'm glad you have one, but I don't love the Police Force, but I had fun. I mean, but I love, you know, it's all pinball, it's all good,
right?
But you know, I really like the bingos. I mean, I think that I have an addictive personality, I have a problem with gambling, and so I don't do it. But but the bingos, I mean, you know, I couldn't have put nickels in that thing any faster. I mean, it was like literally like, I'm like, so, you know, bingo machines, and like, I still don't understand anything that you taught me. Like Nick, like patiently went over everything. And I mean, like, I'm playing it like, I mean, like for 15 minutes, he's explaining to me, like, there's buttons all over the machine. There's buttons on the coin door, on the lockdown bar. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and like the back box. And he's just like, you know, he's explaining it like, well, you hit the yellow button and it does this, and you hit the red. I'm like, all right, how many nickels should I put in this thing? Like, where should I, you know, like,
where's the cutoff?
Yeah, like I was just trying to figure out like, what does a normal bingo person put into a machine? Because you could just drop nickels all day, right?
Yep.
And so as an addict, as a gambling, you know, having that problem, I'm willing to put nickels in all day. And I could have done that. I mean, I did really poorly. Like, I couldn't get any balls to seat where I wanted them. And
you did win at least a pittance, didn't you?
I won very little. Whatever I won, I just put it back. I mean, I was just like, you know, yes, I want to maybe possibly have a ball land in hole number 18 and it'll be yellow, and then I can move the card because nothing is anywhere to that ball. And I love Nick, because Nick is just like, oh yeah, he's like, this is like the most popular hole that you want to go for. And my ball doesn't go anywhere near it. I mean, I'm like, I don't even understand. I mean, it's like Plinko on The Price is Right. And I'm like, I didn't win anything. Like, I didn't win anything. I didn't even win like the blender. I like nothing. I won nothing.
Yeah.
I had a great time doing it. And I could have just kept dropping quarters in there. I was just like, I had to eventually walk away, but I really enjoyed the bingos, but I really like, I mean, you've got a really, really nice collection. I mean, very, like, there's the one that has a retrofitted flippers on it. Mm-hmm. That's to the, that's behind or not behind the bingos, but it's facing the bingos by the garage door. Yeah. Now, what was that? That was
it's a exhibit mystery. It's 1947.
But it's just, yours is just, it doesn't have the flippers, but the flippers are still in there.
So I disabled them because of the way that they were wired in.
You light on fire.
Yes.
Right?
So yes. No end of stroke. So it's all power all the time as long as you're holding the button. They're not impulse, so they don't automatically go back down like Williams from that era.
Right.
And they were wired into the GI with an extra heavy-duty fuse, like 50 amps.
Crazy. What are these people? How did people live? How did anybody survive?
It's amazing. There's scorch marks under the play field. I mean, I'm glad that it didn't catch on fire, but it's got some battle scars. So.
That's a very pretty game though. And you redid the back glass on that, right? Did you reproduce it? It was very nice. Very nice. And that wasn't a wood rail though. Was it a wood rail? Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was really nice. And then the Twinkie, right? Mm-hmm. That's the Peacock one.
Yep.
But is it called Twinkie?
Yep. It's called Twinkie.
It is called Twinkie. Yeah. So about this game, he had this game that was the most recent York show.
Yep.
So he brought his game to the most recent York show, and I played it there. But I played it again at his house, and it's a really nice game. It has the Peacock switch, which is the Peacock button, which is really interesting.
I think every game should have one.
Yeah. What were the objectives of that on Twinkie?
Twinkie, this version is the add-a-ball. And so your goal is to just keep the ball in play for as long as possible. And you do that by achieving score thresholds. It's like winning a replay, but instead of, being able to play a free game, you get another chance.
Oh, it's got the little teeny tiny flippers.
Yes, 2-inch flippers. And you can't trap because it'll roll down the in lanes to the out hole.
That is a brutal game.
It's super.
Oh yeah, that game was brutal.
It's fast too. It's got that mechanical backbox animation, and so you push that Peacock button to stop when you are at the highest point, and it rotates, if you'll recall. And yeah. So yeah, but it's fast, man, and it's brutally difficult. Brutal. So.
And you had the card game. What was the card game?
Pop-A-Card.
Pop-A-Card. That was a good one.
Yep, that's another add-a-ball, and it's all drop target.
I'm not sure. I did not play very well on those.
They're difficult, man. It's a different skill set.
The Pop-A-Card was that kicked my butt. They both did, actually. I think that's why I got on police force, and it's like, I think that the flipper feel is really different.
It is.
It's just so different, and I think like one of the reasons why I wanted to get a Stern Stars, even though it's not, as old as an EM, it's still the flippers just have a very different feel.
Yeah.
And that's something that I needed to add to my collection. And it is one of the reasons why I want to have an EM is just that flipper feel, like being able to go from a WPC where you're expecting like a real snappy feel to like my Stern Stars. I mean, it's still pretty snappy. I mean, they're solid, but it's just different, and that's one of the reasons why I want to add an EM. But I mean, the EM plays, like I said, it's just, it's simple, but you still have to make shots. And generally the rules they're fun because it's like, you do this, and then you have something where you go and you collect. So it's a nice way to just kind of like you play efficiently. It's not just like, oh, I didn't make that shot, but it went up the left orbit. Now I'm working towards, my fellowship. It's like, oh, I bricked. I'm done. That's it. Or I just tilted through. That's the one thing for me on because I'm pretty heavy-handed. I'm like, I'm heavy-handed when I play, and that's my only thing is when I played like, the earlier games. Like I at the York show, I played in a classics tournament and I tilted through to the next player, so I got DQ'd. And that wasn't good. I played some single player EMs at Pinburg last year, and you tilt and your game is done.
Done, right?
And so I was playing. I can't remember the name. I played El Toro. It may have been like or something. It was like a boat theme or something, and it was right next to Elvira and the Party Monsters. I had a good game on that, and then I went over to this thing, and I was just like. Bloop, and I tilted and my game was done. I mean, I was like, it was so bad. I had like 50 points or something. I don't even know if I had that. I mean, it was like first ball tilt done.
Was it Delta Queen by any chance?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that Papa. What was that one you mentioned?
Delta Queen.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a reverse wedge head, Williams.
I don't know if it was Oh, that might have been it. No, I think it was a different. No, it was different because I don't think the playfield wasn't that interesting. It wasn't that interesting. That's a pretty fun looking game, actually.
It's really fun, yeah.
Now, so say I wanted to get an EM, what's in my collection. Like,
sure.
What do you think would be a decent EM? Like, you could get a decent EM for under $5, right?
If you're willing to put in some work, that's the whole thing.
So what if you don't want to put in any work? What if I wanted to pick up, if I came to you and said, Nick, what do I want to get? I want an EM that's going to be like relatively trouble free. I'll play it regularly. Mm-hmm. What would you recommend? Like under, I don't want to break the bank on it.
So under $1, but over 50 cents, is that?
Yeah, maybe free on the side of the road. Like if I'm driving down the road and there's a bingo on the side of the road and I'm like, oh man, this game is worth me like pulling several back muscles to load it in my car. Like what EM am I looking for on the side of the road? Or maybe what should I pass by?
Well, that's an excellent question. So if you're someone without any EM repair experience, something like Grand Prix, though it's got a lot to do on the playfield, is probably not a good first EM game.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the last EM games that Williams made before they went to solid state. And so what that means for you, as someone who has to maintain it, is that there's a lot of stuff to break. And the more mechanisms you have in a game, the more difficult it is to maintain and understand, especially if you haven't fixed a different game, that's simpler. So, people starting with a bingo may not want to jump into a magic screen game like the Bounty, the one that you tried.
Right.
There's a lot going on. But an earlier game is probably more up their alley. And they're also lighter. So there is that.
I'll take lighter.
Yeah. But as far as for your collection, are you thinking 2-inch flipper or 3-inch flipper?
I mean, I like a 3-inch flipper, but I would do it too. I mean, I want the rules to be like a little interesting. I think the thing that worries me about it, the shorter flippers, is just like it seems very hard to get it back up to the top of the playfield. Now, that might just be the games I've played and me not really knowing what I'm talking about, but I want the ball. I want to be able to get the ball to the top of the playfield. Like I know I've played some games where it may have been shows, so like more games that may have been underpowered or something like that. But I feel like once the ball gets to the lower half of the playfield, it's just like you're in that range. Like I want the ball. I want full table to play.
So there's a couple things to note about that, and the first is if you're talking about games from like the 40s and 50s, the wood rails.
Yeah.
Those are all about control as the ball is descending.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know that I want to do a wood rail.
There's no ascension gameplay, really. They're not engineered that way.
No, I hear you.
But as far as 60s and 70s games, at a show, the issue is lack of power.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that happens with WPC. That happens with modern games. Like Twilight Zone at a show can be
just reboots the whole time.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's when you get that big voltage drop. But the thing about an EM is it'll keep trying to go.
Right.
So with an EM, there's an adjustment called high tap, where you can change how much power is diverted to the coils.
Okay.
Basically, it just changes the winding on the transformer that powers all the coils. And when that's set at a show, typically the game is all right. Like my Twinkie that I brought, performed really well, I thought. And it was on high tap.
Okay.
Now, that also, if you have it on high tap at home, where you have kind of controlled conditions,
right.
It's going to be easier to get stuff up to the top of the playfield.
Okay.
But the other thing is, you've got adjustments. So it doesn't have to be super steep, like a WPC game. The flatter that it is, the more upward momentum you're going to get from a flipper shot.
Well, like I set my stars like really steep.
Super steep, yeah.
Yeah, super steep. And I know that you feel like it's a little steep, but you can definitely make all those shots. And I went in and I filed the contacts or whatever. I cleaned the contacts on the flippers, and It gave it more power. Mm-hmm. I had a problem with the right flipper started to get – it just felt – the shots felt weak, and I went in and those contacts were pitted on the EOS.
Yep.
And so I went in and cleaned those up, and now it's just making pop, pop, pop. It's making everything.
Awesome. Yeah, the hint that I get that it's too steep is when it does flipper jumps.
Oh, mine does that.
Yeah, if it's jumping over the flipper, then it's probably not set optimally. But that said, it's your game. So
I know, but you know what? Last league night on Stars, I had a flipper hop.
Yeah. And
that was frustrating. That was pretty frustrating.
So and EMs, with 2-inch flippers, that can happen too.
Yeah.
Then the thing, if you throw theme out the window, which I kind of come to theme last myself, but what I tend to focus on is a particular feature. So. Do you want something with backbox animation? Do you want something where you have chances to save the ball, like an up post in between the flippers or zipper flippers?
I like pop bumpers and spinners.
Pop bumpers and spinners, you can grab on a lot of games. So
I like saucers as well, like Matahari, right?
Yeah,
because that was an EM. I mean, that's a fun game. I mean, I've played that. I played that title a bunch of times, and I've actually considered picking one up because there was one floating around, kind of maybe locally, and so I considered it, and I've played it. I've played it like I knew it was going to be in a tournament, and so I kind of studied up on the play a little bit, and I watched at one of the last Fairfax Opens, which was a tournament that was held up in Northern Virginia. They streamed some Matahari play with some decent players, and watching those guys play it, you appreciate, what you can actually do on a game like that. Because a lot of times I just get on, it's just like survival. It's like as soon as I plunge that first ball, I'm like, I just hope I survive 5 balls. Yeah. And then hope, and just hope for the worst for other people. That's all you can do. Hey. But I think that's a fun game. I like, so pop bumpers and like maybe a couple saucers where you a bonus gets counted off.
Have you thought about something like Snow Derby?
Snow Derby.
That's a 2-player Gottlieb from the 60s. And it's got a couple spinners and a bonus. I'm struggling to remember if it has saucers or not. I guess I do have the internet here.
I'm going to tell you what it has. It has a bunch of saucers. It has 4 saucers at the top, right?
Yeah.
Those are saucers, right? And then it has the 3 pops. Oh, man, I may have played this somewhere. That's and so basically you travel around, right? So is that your bonus in the center where you travel around like Indy 500?
Yep.
And man, that looks cool.
Yeah. So
I played something like this at Pinburg as well, because like in the middle of the playfield where it has those alleys, lanes, like you've got like I played a game that was similar to that had that shot in it. That's a good shot.
Yeah.
And then, so if you get, and then if there's a spot where if you, there's a spinner, there's 2 spinners.
2 spinners and a plunger return.
So what do these usually go for? Like, what kind of price are you looking at on a snow derby?
Well, if you're looking to get an EM and you're looking at a Gottlieb, there's kind of a tax or a penalty that you pay for that. Because if you're looking for a working one, for example, you're looking to spend probably, and this may be low, but $1,000 to $1,200.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And why is that? Is that it's a Gottlieb?
It's a Gottlieb. Also, it's fully working. So, I mean, someone's already gone through all the mechanisms and made sure everything, clean and all that. So, but this is a fairly easy title to work on.
Right.
And the gameplay is really fun. And it's got, a little bit of everything that you talked about.
See, I think for me, what's hard is like $100 range. Like I got into the hobby when you could pick up a piece, a WPC for $1,000.
Right.
And so I think that for me, it's like, I'm always thinking like, oh, EM, like, I like on Craigslist, you go, and somebody has a $200 EM and it's just a fuse. And then you realize like every cable has been cut in the game. And like, well, you saw on Chris's Grand Prix where they cut all the wires going to the head. Like, why? And I love it because Nick's in the back of the head and he's like, why would anybody do this? All you have to do is unplug these plugs. But instead, they went right below the plug and cut all the wires. Like, that would have taken so much more time than unplugging the plugs.
Because then they reconnected them with butt connectors.
Oh, it was crazy.
So they had to strip all the wires and then crimp them for every single wire. It was crazy. And they looped stuff over each other, so they removed all the tie downs and stuff. But anyway.
That was crazy.
But yeah, so, I'm a cheapskate. I don't know if you know this.
I'm a cheapskate. I am.
But that's why I buy them broken, man. It's
well, see, that's okay. So that would be my question. So I'll get my hands dirty. Like I will buy games. Generally, when I buy games, I buy them. I don't turn them on. It's like I buy them and I say I will deal with. The price is right. I'll deal with whatever comes my way.
Right.
I did that with my Dracula. I did that with my Doctor Who. And I did full restores or playfield swaps on them. So I will get my hands dirty.
Right.
So if I will get my hands dirty and I'm at the Allentown flea market, like what am I looking for and what should I be paying if it's a game that's, sitting on its back so I can look at the playfield? Like, I think that's what I find intimidating. Like I go to Allentown or I go to York and I see all these games out there. I'm like, man, $300. Like that seems like a great deal on any pinball machine. But what am I getting? Like what is scary? Yeah. I mean, like, I think that I'm intimidated by that because I just don't know what I'm getting into. I can look at a WPC and say, okay, well, it's got all the boards. It has all the parts. It's complete. I can make it work.
Right.
An EM, no idea. No idea.
Well, the first thing to look at, at a show like Allentown, you've typically got the head sitting in front of the cabinet pod.
Right.
And so you can see both the playfield condition and you can see the backglass condition, kind of in one shot. So those two things are, the primary thing. If you have a good playfield and a good backglass, most everything else is fixable. Even if stuff is missing, for the most part, you can find a replacement somewhere. But the thing to look for are obvious missing pieces. So if you've got a situation where one of the score reels is not in the window,
right,
then, someone's cut that out probably. And that's going to be one of the more difficult pieces to replace, especially if you're just starting into EM repair, because you'll have to know how it all works in order to replace it. And as far as the playfield goes, it's the same thing. Look for obvious missing pieces. If the game has 2 spinners like Snow Derby and one of them's gone completely, then you can get a new spinner. That's not the issue. The issue is the parts underneath.
Exactly.
because often they're robbed if the part on top is robbed. Now, as far as, other units, for the most part, at least in my experience, and I've worked on many more games than just my own, the units inside are not typically missing unless they're just obviously gone.
Right.
So, like in that example with the score reel, I mean, you look at it and something's not there.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty obvious. And as I say, most everything else can be made to work. Even a situation where they slice all the Jones plugs like that, you can eventually figure it out.
Right.
But it's just more difficult. So, yeah, I mean, if you're just getting into it, it's probably best to get a machine that is mostly working. It fires up.
Right.
It doesn't score correctly. If you start with something with a smaller problem, it makes it easier. And then you can use the experience fixing that to kind of understand how all the mechanisms work together holistically.
Right.
So that'd probably be my advice. Of course, the other thing, if you get a nice title that I'd love to play, then just have me over and I'll fix it for you.
Tell me, what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for? What are you looking for in the $300 range?
$300 range?
I don't want to spend any money. I can't spend any more money in this hobby, man. It's just too expensive. I'm done.
Well, $300. I saw a ice review. It's gone, but there was one up in DC, and it looked like it was in pretty good shape. It looked like it would have to have been carried up some stairs. But anyway, that one's gone. Let's see. I did see a Palm Springs bingo. There's one locally for $250, I think. But that's a big.
The fact that you haven't picked that up makes me worried.
Well, you've been over. I mean,
I have.
I don't have a whole lot of space, and I'm pretty bad about getting rid of stuff once I get it. So that's the thing. I mean, another thing is we could do some kind of temporary trade deal.
I would do that.
Yeah. But anyway, we can work out that detail off the
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'll do that.
But, park a fully working EM at your house and I'll fix yours.
Oh, man.
But that could be dangerous.
Yeah, I need to pick one up, so I'll definitely I will give you a call.
Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, I've done that before. I'll send Nick an email. Just say, man, what about this game? What do you think?
Yeah, I like them all. That's kind of my problem. So, I find the good in most games. That said, I mean, there have been some that I've just walked away from, but it's pretty rare. So, would you be more interested in a multiplayer? Since you're probably thinking about league play, especially.
I mean, I think we've talked about that before. I think that a single. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, because the way that my league is set up, you're playing in groups, so the scores are just going to all be compared against whatever group you're in. So it doesn't matter. I mean, a 2-player I think is nice. I mean, a single player would be nice because it's just not. It's more
different.
Simple. Yeah. Well, it's also more simple to work on. But a 2-player, at least you have 2 scores competing right there. There's something about that drama where
it's
you
what they said.
see.
It's more fun to compete. So
yes. So I think I would like a 2-player. I mean, 4-player is nice, but it's not necessary because a lot of the times the guys in the league, they get too confused by which player they are. Like on the Grand Prix, you get guys who are like playing balls out of turn and they're like, what am I, which one? So, I mean, maybe for my league after it gets later in the night with a couple beers, maybe it'd be better just to be a 1-player.
Straightforward. Yeah.
We would actually people play out of turn on a 1-player EM though. We set the bar high.
So, Yeah, and that's another thing. So would you be more interested in a game that disqualified your game on tilt or one that disqualified your ball on tilt?
I mean, I think either way. I think that either way. I mean, I respect the way that the game is set up. So, I mean, at this point, yeah, if you know that your game is going to end when you tilt, you're going to play it a lot differently. I mean, so I would certainly, because then it's no longer about like, oh, if I just save my ball.
Right.
If it's about, you could end your game, well, you're going to play tight. I mean, I think that, I think that's pretty challenging. I think that would, I mean, I would be for either. I wouldn't discount a game because it would tilt your game away at all.
So basically you're saying you like everything. Is that?
I like everything. I mean, I don't know that I want to do a bingo because I do like flippers. Like I'm a big fan of the flipper. I love the flipper. I think the bingo is great, but I think that the bingo, like if I made people bring their own nickels.
Well, you can set those on free play too. I'm just
but there's something about that game where when you're gambling like that and you're putting money in where it actually, if it means more to you, like when I'm just putting your nickels in, I would put them in all day because it doesn't matter. It's like I'm just trying to build up replays. But I like flippers. I want to flip. I do want to flip.
So I think we've already been through this, but just to clarify, so flipperless wood rail would not be in your wheelhouse?
No flipperless wood rail.
Well, what's interesting about a lot of those is that you can earn many multiple replays off of one good ball. So you can earn upwards.
I'm very bad at those. I'm so bad. I'm just bad.
That's where practice comes in.
I know. I don't know. I think that my frustration. I think that real estate is obviously a premium. So
yeah,
I think I want to have some flips. So I'd want it to flip. It could be at least a 2-player.
Mm-hmm.
Pop bumpers, spinners, couple saucers. I mean, I would do a race car theme. I'm not into racing, but I have an Indy 500, so I've, that's, a good theme. The theme really doesn't matter. I mean, some of the themes are kind of, they're a little goofy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably be open to whatever.
I think you should give a good hard look to that snow derby. I think that would be a good fit for you.
Man, I will, I will keep an eye out for a snow derby. I feel like I saw one recently. Mm-hmm. Let's see, how many of these were made? 1,000 units.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Your chances are pretty good. There was also it was either a single player or a 4-player version called Snow Queen, I want to say. Snow Queen, yep. And that was a 4-player. And they made more of those, I think. Yeah, 1,480.
1,480.
Yeah.
And the playfield is the exact same.
Yes.
Right? So it's just a 4-player.
Yep.
And I feel like I may have played this game. You know what? I played a volley.
That's a good game too.
That's a good game, right? I played that at the Fairfax Pinball Open as well. I think they had that in the free play area.
Mm-hmm.
And now single player, right? Or do they have now it has drops, right? Drop targets, 5 bank in the middle.
I think so. You're testing my knowledge here. Let's see.
I've got it up on my screen already.
So you're cheating. What you're telling me.
Well, no, it has more than 5. Whoa, this has got a lot going on. It's got 15. It's got one on either side, and it's got one. That's a volley. I think there was a volley I saw on Craigslist recently.
Yeah,
somewhere a volley came up. Single player. Mm-hmm. So will that tilt out on one ball?
For the replay, yes. Yep. So that'll kill your game.
That will kill your game. I mean, that's pretty cool, though, man. I think that I could do that. And is that typical of single players?
If they're the replay version, yes. Now, some of them have an adjustment which will allow it to kill the ball in play instead.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So EMs are not necessarily, binary creatures. They do have adjustments that allow you to change it to 4-ball play, for example, and 5-ball, 3-ball, whatever you want, up to 8 or more. It just depends. And that's just one example. But, you have replay thresholds just like on your WPC games. You can set whatever replay thresholds you want.
So I found a volley for sale, $950 or best offer. Sold as is. It says it's a very good condition. Playfield is a 9, backlash is an 8, and cabinet is an 8.
No, that's pretty good. Assuming that it is. But I'm guessing that one or more things is broken.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell the listing.
I want to say volley has a commonly broken plastic.
April 19th, 2015. Look, I'm giving a free plug for this guy. It's still listed, so I'd assume it's it's still listed, so I don't know. Maybe I'll hit him up.
There's a plastic right under the center pop.
Yeah.
And that's pretty typically broken.
Yeah, it's similar to Dracula's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, yep. Yeah. Dracula, I think, may have been based on this game. I'm just joking.
Now you know where they got their inspiration.
I do.
But
look, that's a fun game. I played that. I think they had one of those at the FPO, and I know that we were like, my friend Hugh and I, we were just we were kind of hooked on it. Like, it wasn't. Oh man, I can't remember. Can't remember if she was up there, but yeah, it was a fun game.
Yeah, volley's a good one. It's obviously a later EM. Let's see, what is that? 76. So Gottlieb actually made EMs for another 2 years, but the other manufacturers were switching to solid state at that time. So what you can see is the flippers on volley are actually the same flippers that they carried through System 80 all the way up to System 3. Right, yeah. So those kind of fat Gottlieb flippers are present. But yeah, that's a good one. Lots of drops. A lot of drops. I will say the drops were not mentioned as a criteria for you. So,
and you know what? I do like drops. I do. I had an issue with mine on my Stern Stars when I first put it back together. Like, I replaced the drops, and then I was having an issue where they wouldn't stay up.
Yeah.
And but yeah, drops are. Yeah, I love drops. Yeah, I think drops are. Yeah, drops are good. I think drops are right up there with pop bumpers. Like, I like pop bumpers, but drops are good. I have to have drops, man. Oh yeah, I changed everything, right? Because now Snow Queen is out. Oh well, sorry about that.
Hey,
what about a sharpshooter? That's not an EM though, right?
No, sharpshooter solid state. There is a sharpshooter that was made in the 40s. But I'm guessing you're not talking about that one.
That's a Gottlieb?
Yeah.
All right, look, I'm quick. No, I'm not talking about that one. That one does not look very good.
Game plan?
I'm not sure. But it's a Gottlieb. It's a 1949? Is that the one you're thinking of?
That's the 40s one I was talking about.
Oh, yeah. It has the flippers where they're pointing out instead of in.
Yes.
That
just messes with your head.
Yeah, I can't even.
That's a really fun game. It's really difficult, but super satisfying when you win.
Now, do they have pop bumpers will the pop bumpers kick the ball back up above the flippers?
Those are passive bumpers, I believe.
Okay. So it just...
think those are pops, but I might be remembering wrong. you hear me frantically clicking. It's I'm looking. I think it says there's 2 pops. They must be the ones at the bottom.
I think they're active.
And yeah, they do.
I don't look active. I don't know.
They don't have the typical flange that I look for in a pop.
You have 7 at the top, 7 pop bumpers at the top, and like that bullseye configuration.
Right.
And then, that's a crazy looking game. So you have 2 flippers that are facing outward with reverse flippers. Yeah, and then at the bottom, so then it looks like maybe 4 inches below that, you have. They're not slingshots, but they're rubbers. What are those? Are those lights? The 8 and the 9?
So
or those are switches.
Those are switches, and they use the same kind of lamp shields that the bingos use.
Right.
So it's the same plastic, but with a number printed on it instead.
And then on the outside,
there's a little.
It says 2 pop bumpers, and so maybe the pops up top are passive.
I see them now. They're the bottom 2 red bumpers. The rest are passive, I guess.
That's really interesting.
So yeah, but that was at York last year too.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
I don't remember that one.
It is super crazy fun. It is really hard.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do that.
Oh, I think you could.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe.
I think you do well with it. It's one of those ones where you just keep pressing start. You just can't help yourself.
Oh yeah. I think that's one of the allures about the simpler games is that it can end so quickly. Yes. And you're just like, oh, there's only 3 things I need to do. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
It's not like I think that's one of the things that really does draw me to them more so now, just because I've been collecting for a while. It's just simple. There's no like trying to like think about like 20 steps down the rule set. It's just about, like I said earlier, target, spinner. All right. Well, you'll have to help me out. We'll start looking. Maybe that'll be a goal by this time next year. I'll have a EM in the game room.
That'd be awesome, man. It's good to have variety.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I think Stars adds a great variety to your current lineup.
Oh, and it's just, I will camp on that game all night. Like I'll come down and I'll just camp on it. I'll just turn that game on.
Yeah.
And I have it's sitting next to my Doctor Who, which I did a full restoration on. And then on the other side of that is my Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And thank you. And they're Stern Stars, and it's just, it's so good. It's a great game. I've got to get that pop-upper worked out, though, because that's going to drive me crazy. I keep tweaking it, though. I have to have you over just because I'll get you to play that. That'll be the first game I'll put you on, and then you'll sit there. Yeah, man.
So it's that's an early solid state, and it probably doesn't have high-power contacts on the pop. And the thing about those early solid states is, depending on who the operator was, they might have cleaned them incorrectly at some point in your life. So I don't know if you've tried replacing the contacts.
I think I did. I think I replaced it because I completely stripped the playfield.
That's right.
I tore it down. I did a complete rebuild of the drop targets, the pop bumper. I went in and it's one of those angled pop bumper caps. Mm-hmm. And so the problem with a lot of them is you'll see that they're burned. They have those burn marks on them. So I went in and I put in, like, I got new bodies and everything from PBR, but I rewired it so it would take a 555 LED.
Now, the thing that I told you later on is that they actually make shorter incandescents called 51s.
You did, but it was too late.
I know.
That was But yeah, so I did that, and then like I put in a quick connect, so it wasn't just hardwired. So I just put in a 2-pin Molex, so you could take that whole thing out.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I replaced the switch. I took basically everything off. I did a full rebuild on the flippers, and then I took the drop targets completely apart.
Yeah.
Cleaned and polished everything, replaced the actual targets, and they're shorter, right? Mm-hmm. They're shorter than the original ones. And so I ended up the coil, the plunger mech. No, not the stop. The plunger. The plunger, right?
The plunger itself. Yeah.
The plunger itself. I cut that off. So I made that shorter so that when it was drawn up, is that right? Is that what I did?
I thought you ground down the stop.
Maybe I ground down the stop. Oh, I did. I ground down the stop so that it would suck up more.
Right.
Right. Yep. So that the travel would be longer. So it would kick them up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that the little ledge would sit better.
Right.
Yeah. Good times.
Yes.
That was fun. I had to take those drop target mechs out like 4 times because I couldn't figure. Yeah. I tried. Yeah.
Drop targets are the best.
And then I had to make like the little guide that goes into the drop target. Like a lot of the tails on those were broken off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was just completely cracked off because, where they drill that hole, so it actually connects to the plastic piece, it just makes that area so fragile because it's pretty thin.
Yep.
And so I had a couple that were cracked and the tail was just broken off. So I made a new one out of some like piece of shelving, like cabinet hanging material I had. And it was like, it was the correct metal. Like it would have the hardness that those did because it's like a harder metal than a lot of stuff that you find. And so I was able to like cut that out with a Dremel and make a new one. And then I subsequently had a couple sent to me from some guy on Pinside who was swapping over to a different style drop target or something like that. Like he wasn't going to use those anymore. So he sent me so I've got like 4 backups.
Huh. Well,
that was fun, man. It was, I'll get my hands dirty.
Yeah. See, and you go through that kind of story and, you're talking about being worried about working on an EM. It's kind of funny, man. You'll be fine.
You will hold my hand the entire way, I hope.
I will. I'll be gentle. So the thing with drop targets too, if you do get a Gottlieb, you'll see a difference in the design.
Yeah. Okay.
It's amazing. They're so much nicer. Those are kind of the Bally style, because Stern basically took everything Bally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah. So you don't think a bingo's in your future?
I see a bingo's in my future when I come over to your house.
Fair enough.
Like I'm happy that I know a guy who knows how to work on them and will keep them running smoothly so I can come and enjoy them. And I'll put your nickels in.
Hey, that's always fun. So yeah, this new one, you'll have to come try it out because it's got a 6-coin max. So it only accepts 6 coins.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, it changes the gameplay considerably.
And that's got to be a later game, right?
Well, they made those from the beginning up until the end.
Where they limit the amount of coins you could put in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's because they limited the features. So it's also a simpler game to understand. All those pictures I keep posting are me winning on it.
Oh, I see. I saw that. You posted one today where you got the first column all lit, right?
5 in a row. Yep.
Now, what was the payout for that?
So the normal payout was 120, but this machine has a feature where you can
double it, right?
Double or nothing.
Yeah, and you went for double or nothing.
And I went and it gave it to me, so I got 240, which is pretty good because each one, instead of being a nickel, is a quarter on this one. So that's quite the payout.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I got to get over there.
Yeah, man. So, Well, as far as EMs go, so hopefully you'll get one at some point in the future, and if not, you're always welcome. Come over here and enjoy. And,
hey man, I appreciate it. You're always welcome to come over here as well. Even if my games are all working, you're still welcome to come over.
You mean I can just come play them?
Yeah, that's the idea. I just wanted you to come and play them, and then you're just like, no, we got to fix that. I'm like, man, come on, let's go play. And I think we went to play something else, and that wasn't working properly. And I was like, of all nights. And I keep moving down the line.
It eats at me, man. I can't let it go. Of course, then you come over, and I have the same thing happen to my stuff. That's just the way it is.
That's the way it is. It's pinball, man.
Yeah, stuff breaks. But well, Taylor, I've really enjoyed talking with you tonight.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Absolutely. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Nick. I'll talk to you later, man. Thanks again.
Yep. So right after we closed out the recording, I realized that I forgot to talk about quite a few things that Taylor's involved with as far as the hobby goes. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to correct this mistake and spend a moment and talk about Reese Rails, which is Taylor's oak replacement playfield rail service that he provides. Basically, you mail him your playfield rails, and he will provide you with beautiful replacement oak rails. You can see his work on the Facebook page for Reese Rails, ReeseRails. And if you want to place an order, message Taylor either on Facebook or message him at TaylorVA on Pinside. Now, Taylor is also very active on Instagram with the username Richmond Pinball, all one word. And he also hashtags Reese Rails, again, all one word, on Instagram to show off some of his work. You can also find information on some of Taylor's goings-on RVA Pinball on Facebook or rvapinball.org. There's a blog run by another local collector who I hope to have on one day here soon. And it talks about River City Flippers and other happenings here in the Richmond pinball scene. So, thank you again, Taylor, for your time. And for those of you on Pinside, you can see an example of Reese Rails in the thread Oak Replacement Playfield Rails, which Taylor posts some photos of some of the rails that he's made. And again, they're just absolutely gorgeous. So I plan to give him some of my rails from Gigi because mine are super rough, and get those remade into something nice and pretty. So thank you again for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, and you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.